Well, this is a rough terrain, and that's why I'm wearing these trekking shoes. But that's sometimes not enough, and if you really want to come to places like these, you need a capable car, and the Discovery Sport is exactly the kind of car that you need. Now, in the premium SUV ecosystem, this car, if you really ask me, is the most SUV-ish of all the contenders that are there. I really like it for the way it looks, and I think it is also the most capable if you really compare it with the Audi Q7, BMW X3, the XC60 and the Mercedes GLC. It also is the most spacious inside, but is this the best car in this segment? My name is Amit Changani, you're watching Motoroids, and we're going to just find out. Now let's quickly get down to business, and if you talk about dimensions, in terms of the length and the wheelbase, this is the shortest car of the lot. But if you look at the width and the height, this car has the most amount of width and the most amount of height. But it's surprising because despite having the smallest amount of wheelbase and the smallest length, this car is probably the most spacious inside, and it's pretty evident when you sit inside and if you look at the boot size, but more on that later. Talking still about the design, if you look at this whole template, this is probably the most SUV-ish of all the cars that you have in this segment, and these very Land Rover kind of headlamps are not all LED. These are bi-xenons with an LED ring, and you don't also have an army of cameras all around just yet. This is the 2019 version, and the 2020 version has come elsewhere in the world, and it's going to be coming here very soon. However, you have a camera in the back. It looks very smart. There are no stupid creases. It's not loud, and as I mentioned before, it looks very, very nice, very proportionate. And of all the SUVs that are here, I really think that this is the most SUV-ish of all of them. The ground clearance here is 212 mm, which is good enough to tackle any kind of terrain that you throw at it. And very clean, simple lines, very nuanced kind of a design makes it really stand out from the crop of SUVs that it fights against. You have these 18-inch wheels here, and they are shod with the Goodyear Wrangler tires, and you have 235 section tire here, both front and at the back, and these are on and off-road tires so that the car behaves very well on the road and off it as well. You get this contrasting black roof here and a blacked out B-pillar. You have this contrasting ORVM, and apart from that you get a shark fin antenna and a really enormous panoramic sunroof. At the rear you get this rather large sized spoiler, and the simplicity, the clean horizontal lines can be seen at the rear as well. This very nicely detailed tail lamp and a rather simplistic design with undercladding all around makes the Discovery Sport look really nice, and it really blends an urban look with off-road capability rather well. So in terms of design, full marks to Land Rover for presenting possibly the best looking purists SUV in the segment. Now time to get inside and let's see what all wonders does this premium SUV pack. Now before we start talking about the features, the first thing that we need to understand is that this car is available in 4 trims. The Pure, which is the base variant, then the SE, then the HSE, which is this variant, and the HSE luxury variant. There's a landmark edition also, and it sits somewhere in the middle. But that was a limited edition, so I'm not counting it as a regular edition. HSE luxury variant is the top of the line variant, and over the HSE variant you'll get a few goodies like memory function for the ORVMs. You'll get a bigger touchscreen here, which is 10 inches. You'll get better quality mats, you'll get entertainment at the rear, that's 10-inch screens, and the wheels also are a little different. These leather seats also are a little different there. Here you get these grain perforated leather seats, and there you get Windsor leather. So the top of the line HSE luxury variant has a few extra features, but the HSE variant also is quite loaded, and let's start talking about it. And before we get going with the interior, if you are finding this layout slightly dated, as I mentioned, the new facelift of this car has come and a lot of stuff has changed. So new technology has been introduced. The screen here, the infotainment, the technology, a lot of stuff is newer. But for now in India we have this, and you get this 8-inch infotainment system here, and you get to have two audio systems here. So right now we have the Meridian system with over 300 watts of output and 11 speakers, but for the luxury variant you get a more powerful 17 speaker system with over 800 watts of output. You get these steering mounted controls, but the steering here is manual, it's not electrically operated, so you have to push down this lever and then you can adjust the steering for both height and reach. As I mentioned before, you get this beautiful panoramic sunroof, and it's really huge. There is nothing in the middle, so it looks very beautiful. However, this glass is fixed and this doesn't move and it cannot be opened. The quality of materials is very good. If you look at the steering wheel, it's wrapped in leather. You have leather on the dash. You have this beautiful grain perforated leather on the seats, and the seats by themselves are very comfortable, very good thigh support. 10-step adjustable on the HSE variant, and the HSE version adds 2 more adjustments to the seat. While all of that is good, what this car misses out in terms of the seat is that there's no memory function here, and I really believe that there should have been a memory function. And this very well-known Jaguar / Land Rover drive selector knob, like always, rises up in its dramatic fashion. The electronic parking brake also is very nice to operate. The buttons here could probably have been of a better quality, and this center console now after so many years is looking slightly dated, but it's going to be updated very soon. You get to choose from 4 modes, and you have this normal mode, which is auto. It automatically selects the kind of traction that the wheel should get and adjusts a lot of things automatically. In addition, you get this grass, gravel, snow mode. You get mud, ruts mode and this sand mode, and if you are in the mood to save some fuel, you can choose this eco mode as well. You get this 2-zone AC. You don't have temperature control at the rear. However, you have AC vents in the back seat as well as in the 3rd row. We are going to get to that in a bit. You get this reasonably sized glove box, but there is no cooling here. In terms of spaces, you get quite a few open spaces. You have this open space here, which by the way has been turned into a mobile charging unit in the 2020 version, but that's still not here yet. You get these 2 cup holders, but there's a trick here, and if you press this button, you can remove this and it turns into this huge cavity which can swallow quite a lot of stuff. In addition, you get this huge cavity here, which is currently swallowing my sunglasses holder, my wallet, and is also home to a USB socket, an aux in, a 12-volt power socket, and this socket for updating the navigation. You also get a slot for SIM. This armrest, by the way, is very wide and is adjustable, so that obviously adds to the comfort factor. Now, a very important thing that needs to be mentioned is that this car comes with this little button here, which is essentially for HDC or hill descent control, but this can also be used to deploy ATPC, which is automatic terrain progress control, and this is a kind of a cruise control for off-road, and we had demonstrated how this works in the link above, so you can go there and see how it works. One little gripe in terms of space that I have is that while the space in the door panel is sufficient and it's housing a 1-liter bottle here, but that's not exactly a bottle holder, and it requires you to twist and turn the bottle a little bit to get it out, as you just saw. So it should have had a proper bottle holder, and that's my only gripe in terms of the storage spaces up front. The seats are very comfortable, and I really believe that over a long distance this Land Rover is going to keep you in comfort. Talking still about a few open spaces, you have this little space here where you can put your wallet or cell phone, and you also get this USB charging socket. You have a 12-volt power socket here, and on both the sides these sunshades have vanity mirrors, which are, by the way, illuminated, and the RVMs are also auto dimming. Now, the sound from the Meridian sound system is pretty good, although the HSE luxury variant has a much more advanced version and the quality of sound is much better. So for the audiophiles amongst you, we can really recommend the HSE luxury variant. So the visibility all around is very good. This is a great off-roader, and it's as comfortable, as much at home on the road as it is off it. And to make things easier for you, you have these paddle shifters, and the engine here is mated with a very smooth 9-speed automatic. So that's the story up front, and we can now, I think, move to the back seat and see how comfortable or uncomfortable it is. To get in is quite easy, slightly on the taller side, so the short ones amongst you might just have to bounce up a little bit or use the step there to get inside. But for people who are 5'8", 5'9" or above, it should not be a problem at all. And the seats here, as you can see, are very comfortable, good amount of thigh support. Also, a very good thing here is that these seats are reclining, so over longer journeys the seat is going to keep you in a lot of comfort. The suspension is tuned slightly on the stiffer side, but as the car builds speed, it flattens out and it feels very comfortable. So only at slow speeds on bouncier surfaces you might feel a bit of a vertical movement, but otherwise this is a very comfortable seat. Insulation is probably not the best in class, but it's sufficient for this class of cars, and you don't get to hear any of the wind noise or ambient noises or tire noise. So overall a very insulated cabin, but I really believe that the most insulated cabin in this class has to be that of the Volvo XC60. The AC vents here are incorporated in the B pillars. You don't have anything here. What you have indeed is this 12-volt power socket and some storage space here, and this is what you can use to put your wallet. Plenty of knee room. As I mentioned before, this is the tallest car in its class, so there is a ton of headroom. Also, you have these very nice reading lights which look black when they're not lit, and you also get this central armrest with these two cup holders. It's wide enough for two people to put their elbows. You can seat 3 people here for short to medium journeys, and I really believe that if you're traveling for 200 kilometers, there can be a third person who can be seated here, because the transmission tunnel, although it's there, but it's not too big, so straddling it should not be much of a problem. You also get a coat hook here. And overall, if you look at this segment, I really think that this second row has to be one of the most comfortable in this premium mid-size SUV segment. A few other small but important things to be mentioned about the second row of seats in the Discovery Sport is that just like the front doors, you can actually put a 1-liter water bottle here, but there is no specific water bottle holder per se, so you again will have to struggle a little bit to put a bottle inside and to take it out. Secondly, there is no provision for a sunblind here, and for this class of cars I would probably want to have sunblinds here. You also get these magazine holders, so if you have any documents you can put them here, and you also get these Isofix child mounts, which is a very good safety inclusion. Another important thing is that the second row of seats is 40-20-40 split, so if you have a long object that you want to load up in the boot, this armrest is going to make space for that, and you can still seat 2 people in comfort. And one last but a very important thing is that these seats slide, and by quite some margin, so you can actually make a ton of space for the people who are sitting in the third row. And you heard me right, third row. This is the only car in its segment which has a third row of seats, and it can seat 2 people in the third row. However, those seats are very small and are, I think, suitable only for kids. But how difficult it is to get inside and whether it can seat an adult and for how long, let's just get in there and find out. Before I get in the third row, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make some space for the person who's sitting in the back seat so that I have sufficient knee room. And now let's see how much of space do we have there. Now to get inside is not very easy, and you have to use this lever here to bring the seat down, and you can pull it forward, and this is all the opening that you have. So for someone who's reasonably well built like me, to get inside there's not much of space, so I'll have to be a bit of a contortionist. And now I'm trying to get inside, and now I can pull the seat back to the pre-specified level, and now as you can see, I'm not very comfortable. The headroom here is not sufficient. My head is brushing with the roof, and while there is a decent amount of knee room here, the problem is that the bench is very low set, so my knees are pointing skywards, and for a fully built adult, I don't really think that these seats are going to work. However, an important aspect of these seats is that the day when you want to be going out partying with your friends, you want to fill everyone in. For a short city commute, 20-30 kilometers, this is going to work just fine, and you'd still be able to take them to that lounge or the restaurant or where you want to take them to. So in that sense, you still have a pair of seats which are usable for short distances and usable over longer distances by kids. You also get these AC vents here, and the air blast here is pretty good. The AC by itself is very strong and chills very well. Apart from that, you get a USB socket here, you get another 12-volt power socket here, and another good part about these seats is that these have this very nicely designed headrests. So when you're sitting here, you have some protection to protect you from whiplash injuries. So overall, it's not meant for adults, but for being the only car in this segment which has a pair of seats in the third row, I think this is pretty usable, and I really appreciate that this car has these two seats, because this can be a deal breaker for a lot of other people who want to buy a car at a certain price in this segment and want a third row of seats. You also get this control for controlling the AC blast, and last but not the least, you get this cup holder on both the sides, so the passengers sitting in the third row can put their cuppa in that holder and enjoy themselves. I'm not enjoying myself much though, and I really need to get out of this place. And just how the case was with getting in, getting out for a well-built person is not easy either, and it takes quite a bit of bending and jumping, although you can get that done eventually. Now let's see how much space do we have in the boot. Now before we look at the boot, we need to know one thing, and which is that you don't have a powered tailgate here. And you have 194 liters of boot space with all three rows up, and as you can see, it can accommodate two small sized haversacks very easily. Now if you want to put the third row of seats down, you have to pull this strap rather strongly to put the headrests down first, and then put this down, and ditto for the second one as well. And now you have 981 liters of enormous boot space, and if you put down the second row of seats as well, you'll have 1680 liters of boot space. So if this part of the car is important for you, if boot space and a third row of seats is important, then in this segment there is no other car that can come close to the Discovery Sport, and I think that's a big plus, because a lot of people, especially in India, are looking for that feature. Now a few other things that I wanted to show you include these two buttons here, which can be used to put down the second row of seats, and that's a very nifty feature, and this parcel tray or a parcel shelf, which can be deployed or removed based on whether you want your third row up or not. So when you have your third row up, you have to remove this. Let's just see how you deploy it. Now another important thing about the boot, you don't have any spare wheel here. You have all the tools, you have the jack, and the spare wheel is sitting under the car, and this is not a full-size spare. You get a space saver here, so that's a bit of a downer with all the premium cars, I believe, and these premium cars need to come with a full-size spare, because you want to be going out with your families, and if something goes wrong, then this space saver is not fully reliable. But overall, this is the most spacious boot that you'll find in this segment, and a full 100 to Land Rover for this ingenious design. Now since this car is for the ones who like to wander about, we thought that we'd shoot this in cabin also, in its natural environment where the car feels at home. And talking about the engine, this is powered by the new 2-liter Ingenium diesel, and the power output here is variable. For the base variants, the power output is a little less. You get 149 HP of power and 382 Newton meters of torque. For the higher state of tune, which is this car, you get 179 HP of power, and the peak torque here is 430 Newton meters. Now while this torque is not the best in class, it's better than a lot of other cars like the BMW X3 and the Audi Q7 as well. And if you really have to look at the best car in the segment in terms of power, the Volvo XC60 has the most amount of power and torque. But these figures are par for the course, especially the torque is better than most other cars in this segment. The engine is mated with a 9-speed transmission. This is sourced from ZF, and it's pretty smooth, but it's not the quickest. Sometimes the kickdowns take a wee bit of time before they shift into a lower gear. So it's not the quickest, but it's very smooth and fairly fast to be driven on the road and off it. And there's nothing complaint worthy, but yeah, it's not the quickest. The suspension, as I mentioned before, is slightly on the stiffer side, and The steering is very well weighted and very direct, very precise. On the highway you can really like place the car very well on the road. So in terms of driving pleasure, the road manners of this car on the road or off it are phenomenal. So it's right there with the best. Obviously, as I mentioned before, for the best amount of driving fun, the BMW X3 still is unparalleled, but this car also feels very nice while on the road. It also has a very good road holding, and the advantage that you have here is that the off-roading capability of this car is better than the BMW X3. Fuel efficiency in the city is about 8 to 9 kilometers to the liter, and on the highway you'll get about 11 to 12 kilometers per liter depending on how you're driving. That's the diesel variant. You also get a petrol variant here with the peak power is 240 PS and peak torque is 340 Newton meters. This car has its 0 to 100 acceleration time of about 8.6 seconds, a little under 9 seconds, and it can reach its top speed of about 190 kilometers per hour. It's not the most thrillsome of performance or the craziest of the numbers, but for all practical purposes, this car will be faster than most of the cars that you'll find on the road, and it'll take you from point A to point B in a very brisk, very fast manner, and in a very comfortable, assuring manner, if I may add that. So overall, a very well balanced package, although some changes have been made to the driveline, and those changes will be introduced in the 2020 variant. Now, with an on-the-road price tag of 55 lakh rupees, the Pure, which is a base variant of the Discovery Sport, is the most economical car to buy in this segment. However, you won't get many features, and the top of the line HSE luxury variant is 75 lakh rupees on the road. However, the HSE variant, which is this variant and pretty loaded, is 69 lakh rupees on the road, and at that price it's a very good value for money car. If you really have to compare it with the other cars in the segment, the range of models, the variants, I'm talking specifically about the diesel here, is 65 lakh rupees to 75 lakh rupees. And if you talk about the best overall car in this segment, I would really have to give it to the Volvo XC60, because that car really packs in a ton of features and cutting-edge technology for a phenomenal price. Similarly, if you want the best on-the-road car, something that gives you the thrill of performance, the BMW X3 is the car to look at. However, if you want the most practical car, something which is capable, or let me put it this way, the most capable to go off the road and has the most amount of space and is the only car to have that extra row with 2 seats, this is the car. This is a no-nonsense car which is meant for practicality and space and comfort. And if you want to buy the car which can do it all without all the gimmicks, this doesn't have the best tech inside, it doesn't have the best screens and the best digital readouts, but in terms of what it can do and how it looks and the brand that it comes with, I really think that the Discovery Sport is a very capable car, very practical car, and one of the best in the segment. I really hope that this video was of some use to you. If you thought that this video was useful, hit that like button, subscribe to Motoroids. We are there on Instagram and Facebook as well, so follow us there. And until next time then, this is Amit Changani signing off. Rev hard, rev free, and drive safe.